Today we are in the class 22, especially, and we need to discuss about the energy requirement of the ruminants for the maintenance, then also for the growth, pregnancy, and lactation in the ruminants. In the ruminants are concerned. Then the important part of it contains the feed energy systems, especially how the feed or energy system is maintained in the animals. And hence, this type of the system need to be evaluated for different purposes. Of course, one is the total digestible nutrients is one of the thing. Means many times we hear see these terms and get bored out of it, but we need to learn something about the total digestible nutrients. So, what is it? It expresses the traditional system to express digestible energy concentration of the feedstuffs, especially. So, based on total digestible nutrients, these are called as the physiological fuel values. Then, the equivalence in the energy units, 1 pound of the total digestible nutrients is equal to 2000 kilocalories of digestible energy. So, this is the European system, whereas if you convert it to kg, 1 kg of total digestible nutrients means 4004 kilocalorie of digestible energy. So, remember all these key features, especially in the nutrition. Then the total digestible nutritions, it has got its own limitations. At the same time, there are a lot of errors in the chemical analysis. So errors in digestibility trials. Then low food intake increases the digestibility most of the time. Then dry matter at the 3x maintenance reduces the TDN by the rate of 8%. So these are all some of the key features which are need to be limited, especially limitation of the total digestible nutrients. So sometimes what happens is the underestimates or does not include all energy losses in the metabolism. Whenever the energy is consumed, there is lot of loss, just like the loss of the energy when we are carrying the electricity through the line. On the way of transportation, there is loss. So similarly, the energy is also lost in the ruminants by underestimates energy loss in the urine to the extent of 5%. So the energy may be any type of the energy to the extent of 5% it will be lost. Then some energy is lost in the form of the methane gas production. Usually that is 3 to 10% of the feed energy. That does not include the work digestion, heat of the fermentation, then heat of the nutrient metabolism, etc. Then this overestimates the usable energy values of the feed sometimes. So sometimes we overestimate the energy which is produced by the forages. Then another system is the energy is measured in caloric system or kilocalories or megajoules. So this system is the amount of heat required to increase the temperature of 1 gram of water from 14.5 degree to 15.5 degree Celsius, not Fahrenheit, Celsius. So all the energy requirements are measured in these terms only. Number one, the 1 kilocalorie is equal to 1000 calorie. This is the metric system which works very easily for us. 1 mega calorie is equal to 1000 calories or similar type of the calories, kilocalories, 1000 kilocalories or 1000 into 1000, that is 1 lakh kilocalories or more. So this is the system, and caloric system subtract digestion and metabolic losses from the total energy of the free stuffs. Here is a good chart how we can estimate the caloric system. So the energy system is always measured in the gross energy. Then in the gross energy there is a loss in the fecal energy, then digestible energy, then digestible energy is lost through urine losses, then gaseous losses, then metabolizable energy. So these three are the important losses which makes the digestible energy loss. Number one, the energy is lost through the urine production especially. Then also, as told earlier, it is also lost through the gases, especially methane gas. Then sometimes the metabolizable energy is also lost through some of the means. Hence, all these things need to be considered while we are going to follow the digestible energy. Then the metabolizable energy is leading to heat increment losses. What the losses we are heat increment losses means the work of digestion, then heat of fermentation, especially for digestion some energy is also required and it is lost, and heat of fermentation, especially the fermentation process takes place in the rumen, then that heat requires some energy. Then heat of nutrient metabolism is another loss. So heat of nutrient metabolism system is another loss. Then the net energy remains for maintenance and the retained energy is for the production. So as usual, the feed is required for the maintenance and also for the production. Number one, the maintenance minimum quantity of the energy is required, whereas the retained energy will be converted into the lactation, then growth, and the fat or the stored energy type of the system. So these are the ways how it is derived. The caloric system is systematic in a little bit when compared to the other system. So it is calculating in such a way that first of all the losses are calculated. Number one, the digestible energy is calculated in terms of the fecal losses and the digestible energy is available to some extent, then it has to go to the rumen and etc. And some part is also lost through the urine, then gaseous losses, then metabolizable energy is always it is required to some extent for the heat increment losses, especially for work of digestion, heat of fermentation, then heat of nutrient metabolism. Whereas the net energy available will be utilized for the maintenance of the animal and also the production or the retained energy. The production ration is always required for the lactation, then stored energy, and also the growth. So these are the three components how the energy requirement is calculated. Then the energy required for two things as usual, the maintenance and production. So production also increases different terms. The maintenance, the percent of energy requirement for the maintenance is the 25 to 75%, especially in case of the dairy cattle. 25 to 75%. The maintenance energy requirement is in dairy cattle, then 70% in the beef cattle. So this is especially the maintenance energy requirement. So what are all the components of this maintenance? Number one, the basal metabolic rate or BMR. Every animal has got its own BMR. So to maintain this BMR, the sometime the energy is required, and hence we have to calculate this also. Then to maintain the body temperature, because the animal, the ruminant, is a warm-blooded animal. Hence, always it requires the energy for the body maintenance temperature also. Then sometimes the animal has to do a lot of activities like walking, getting up, getting down, then the mastication, etc. So these are called as the maintenance energy. All the activities other than the production are called as the maintenance energy. Then the pregnancy is also another requirement, especially so pregnancy is a requirement of the energy requirement. Then growth of that particular animal is also another requirement. Growth is also another requirement. Then the lactation is one of the important requirement of the animal for the production, especially the lactation. So most of the cattle, dairy cattle, do always require the energy for lot of energy for the lactation is concerned. Then pregnancy, lot of energy is required, and also during the growth period, the animal do require lot of energy. Then there is a separate system to calculate the energy requirement of the cattle and also to the buffaloes. So we'll see what are all those things. So the cattle and buffaloes do always have the similar type of the system, but sometimes it varies a little. That's all. But majority of the things are almost same from that of a cattle or that of a buffalo. Then energy required for maintenance of the cattle. So as usual, we have told that the quantity of energy required for maintenance is by definition. What's a maintenance? Means which promotes energy equilibrium or zero energy balance. This is the bookish definition of the energy for maintenance. Whereas energy for requirement of the in maintenance that can be calculated from various feeding standards. So many methods are there how to calculate the energy requirement for maintenance and also energy required for the production. So this quality can be estimated directly by feed as opposed to be fasted or challenged, or animals if energy content of their food is known and their energy balance can be measured by feeding trials. So many feeding trials can be done in nutrition. Accordingly, the feed requirement and energy requirement can be met from different components of that particular compound feed. So a similar approach can also be followed by the feeding trials. You might have heard the name. What's a feeding trial is? Means systematically conducting the different trials is called as the feeding trials, which are kept in the calorimeter or not kept in the calorimeter. So the approach feeding trials, which animals are not kept in the calorimeter or calorimeter, not calorimeter here. So the different type of the energy loss can be easily calculated by this type of the system. So here the energy required, especially requirement of these animals, may be calculated by different methods, but what here it is established is by AFRC, which are based on the fasting metabolism. F, the fasting metabolism megazoules per day, that can be calculated. So here F is equal to 0.53 W by 1.08 into 0.67. That's the calculation part is much more important here. Then you can remember this formula. But the fasting metabolism of bull is considered to be 15% higher than that of the steers or a similar weight. So activity allowance is measured as A mj per day, that is 0.007 W and 0.0095 W is included for growing cattle and also the dairy cattle respectively. Hence, thus the net energy requirement for the maintenance, it is noted as NEM for a 600 kg dairy cow. How you are going to calculate as follows. So in the examinations, this may be a small question. Please calculate the net energy requirement of a cow with a specific weight which need to be calculated. Hence, you need to know the formula. Net energy metabolism is equal to 0.32 into the body weight point, this the 600, then 1.08 into the ratio of 0.67 plus 0.0095 into 600. So this gives us the energy required for the net energy maintenance, like the 42.3 megajoules per day. So if metabolizable energy content of the cow's diet is 11 megajoules per kg of the dry matter, the efficacy of metabolizable energy utilization for the maintenance would be 0.0174, and the requirement for the maintenance is calculated as this per. So once you know the formula, then you can easily calculate the total net energy required per day divided by 0.714 gives the metabolizable energy per day. So there are different methods of calculation of this energy requirement. So there are other things from calorimetric methods are there. So the maintenance requirement of the beef cattle is also published by NRC. NRC is the current trend, and comparative slaughter techniques have also been very well established by the NRC. So the NEM requirement of the beef cattle can be predicted from the empty body weight, or it's also known as the EBW as follows. So net energy metabolizable is equal to 0.22 EB into EBW into 0.75, where EBW is equal to weight into 0.85 of a particular cow. So, and in NRC it is NE is equal to 0.335 W into point raised to 75. So there is a small difference from AFRC system and NRC system, and already we have talked a lot about this thing. And apart from this one, the ICAR has made its own type of the system, especially then ICAR. The standards are always there. Then how these are calculated is, then the maintenance energy requirement for indigenous animals vary between the 0.61 104 metabolizable energy into kg raised to the power of 0.75 in dry cows, and in the yeast it is between 113 to 160 kilocalories of metabolizable energy into the kg. So there is a difference between the different NRC system and ICR systems also, which adopted the value of energy requirement to be 122 kilocalories of ME kg into 0.75 for both cattle and buffaloes. So for lactating cattle, it may be different once again. Then, for example, a cow of brown Swiss plus the local Sahiwal is it is 131, same thing, that is ME kg into 0.75. So for lactating Haryana cows, it is different, 127 kilocalories of ME per point is 0.75 raised to the power of 0.75. So accordingly, the ICR has given a table of the different uh, body weight as it increases the TDN, total digestible nutrients, then metabolizable energy in kilocalories, megacalories. It is going to be increased always. See here, there is a trend, that increasing trend is there. Here, increasing trend is there. Once again, it's also as the body weight increases, the requirement of TDM and ME also going to increase to the greater extent. Then this is about the maintenance of modifiers. So, what is the maintenance ratio? Totally, it is usually a fixed type of the ratio, but sometimes what happens, dependent type of the breeds and more body weights always make the implications. So, the maintenance requirement of the breeds with high milk potential are 20% higher than those of low milk producers like our Malnad Gidda or Bos Indicus breeds, and it is 10% lower than that of the Bos Taurus cattle. Or the local cattle's energy requirement is lesser than that of the Jersey or HF cattle. So here the cow breeds are, and also the different rations are always there. For example, Angus Hereford, it is 130. Then the energy requirement for different purposes depicted in this chart. So Jersey, it is 145. Then the actually it is going to be increased as per the body weight requirement, and it depends upon the Bos Taurus or Bos Indicus or different milk breeds. And once again, the sex of that particular animal, the bulls do require the energy requirement different, the heifers, then also the growing cows, and also the milk producing animals. So they require the, especially the net energy, any yum is 15% by the bulls. But our aim is lactation, then maintenance requirement of the lactation of the cow is 20% higher than that of the dry cows. Especially the maintenance is calculated per liter of the milk now, very simplified, because in Karnataka Milk Federation and other thing, they do not know, the farmers do not know much about the calculations. So they say that 1 kg of the cattle feed, which is containing the crude protein to the extent of 18 to 21%, and also 400 to 500 gram per liter of the milk produced per day. So this has to be divided two times and has to be administered. So this language will be easily understood by the farmers, but the cows, especially the beef cows, of course we do not have any beef cows, reduce maintenance energy requirement, reduce the feed use, and simulates the reproduction. Then the body condition score is also another thing where in which we are going to calculate the different health status of the animals, then this reflects the previous nutrition. This is the formula, especially for calculation. Then the implication of this can have compensatory gain in growing cattle or reduced feed requirement of the beef cattle by restricting the nutrients. Then also the temperature, especially the body temperature and also the external temperature, which is called as the adjustment. Temperature adjustment has to be made. More and more external temperature requires more and more energy. Hence, the temperature need to be considered while calculating the energy requirement of an animal. Then activity allowance, especially this is very specific to the beef cattle. And there is a variation of about 10 to 20% in the energy requirement for net energy requirement for good pasture if they can graze by itself. Then 50% increase in NE is also required on poor hilly pasture because the animals need to go and graze, and if it is a hilly region they are going to lose the energy in the form of the exercise, and hence the then the more food need to be given. Whereas the dry matter in case intake is in kg per day, total digestible nutrient is a decimal. So T is the terrain. Terrain means up and down. So 1 is equal to flat. Then 1.5 undulating. 2 is hilly. So these are all the gradings given while calculation of the total digestible nutrients. GF is indicated to green forage available to in metric ton per hectare of the land. So the activity allowance means the animal has to walk and it has to graze, it has to do certain exercises, lay down, then mastication, rumination, and all these things do also require the energy. Then walking adjustment has to be made, eating especially 0.0012 megacalories of net energy per kg body weight is required. So this is assumes about the 60% of the diet is on a pasture if the animal is totally grazing. Then walking, so every people walk every morning for losing the weight, whereas in case of cattle it is totally opposite. So we should not make the animal to walk, or else we need to adjust the feed, especially the factor 0.006 m calorie Ne1 per kg into body weight. So, especially in the animals in hilly pasture is one in which cattle move 200 meter of vertical distance every day. So, one need to give lot of consideration on such things, especially such things are required. Hence, we need to calculate the energy requirement when the animal is grazing, when it is on the pasture, or when it is totally stall fed. Then energy requirement, and if the animal is pregnant, very inefficient utilization of the energy is done during the pregnancy. It is to the extent of 14 to 16%. So it increases the energy requirement drastically during the last trimester of the gestation. So the energy requirement increases. For example, if it's a beef cattle, then dairy cattle. Totally, the formula need to be changed. Of course, this is more mathematical, but sometimes you need to calculate some questions. Who suppose a scientist who is always involved in the calorimetric method of calculation of the metabolism, then such questions may also come. Then ICAR standards are there. As per the 6 months of pregnancy, the growth of the fetus increases significantly. After 6 months of the energy, it starts growing very fastly. So At that time, more and more energy requirement is required, especially. So the energy requirement of the cattle is going to be increased very fastly once it is in the phase of the pregnancy. For example, the days of pregnancy between 190 to 277 are very crucial, and we need to provide the proper energy during this stage. Then pregnancy requirement of a buffalo, for example, a buffalo with months of the pregnancy. So you know that in case of buffaloes, 10 months, 10 days. It takes 1 month more to have a calf. So it also increases. Suppose if it is the 9 to 10th month of the pregnancy, then it may require 31 to 60 body weight, especially. Then age is in case of days, especially the calf. So here it is the buffaloes, it is 9 to 10 months, dry matter is 1.5 kg, then total digestible nutrient 1.1, then the metabolizable energy to be provided is 4.1. Whereas the cows, it is little different. They are going to calve at 8 to 9 months, and the age increases. The dry matter taking is also going to increase, whereas the total digestible nutrients, it also required increases, whereas it is in all the animal, it is going to increase to the greater extent. Whereas in case of a feeding calf, then it also changes. Then as per the age of the calf, we need to provide the different type of the digest. So the energy required for lactation is always another thing, because the lactational stress make the animal to go to the stress also. So the energy requirement of the lactation, they involve an estimate of gross energy value EV1 for milk, which may be used with a yield of estimate net energy requirement for the production. So this determines the energy of milk is determined by bomb calorimetry or a detailed chemical analysis. Determination of, here you can see, determination of gross energy involves the bomb calorimeter or detailed chemical analysis of the food, the amounts of the fat, lactose, protein, and then multiplied by their energy values respectively for different compounds. So following this is the equation, especially for energy required for the lactation, where F is the fat content, especially of the food. So once again, this is a formula. More accurate assessments, we need to be more and more precise, including the protein and lactose. Both we need to consider. Not only the carbohydrates, we also need to take the consideration of the protein, and we need to calculate the requirement as per the formula given here. So please note down such formulas, and these are all available in the standard textbook. Then another thing is equal efficiency to maintenance. So here there are two formulas are there. Then to them simply we need to add any one needed for the maintenance. So in case of first lactation, once again this is going to change. So a heifer, it is going to cow, then it becomes its first lactation, give additional 20% of maintenance energy, 20%, and 10% in the second lactation. In the first lactation, the energy requirement is more, whereas in case of second lactation, it is reduced to 50%. Then animal will lose body weight on its peak milk yield if a properly balanced nutrient is not given. Then energy from body tissue loss may also be there. because the animal stores the additional energy, the form of the fat, and that particularly the fat is going to be converted to the energy content. Then the body condition scoring system, starting from the 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and maximum is the 4. So as the body condition score increases, the requirement of the loss, especially the the every energy from body tissue loss, it also increases. Or 5 point body skill condition, 2, 2.5, then 3, and 3.5 to 4, lowest being the 2 and highest being the 4. So the energy from body tissue loss is going to be increased as the animal is going to be advanced or high peak yield. It is there. So energy requirement for milk production in case of cattle, one need to see this thing, especially if an animal is yielding with 3%, 4%, 5, 6 or 7% of the fat. If the animal's fat score is more, then the dry matter intake will also be more, like starting from 0.45 kg or just 450 grams, it goes up to 700 grams. So the total digestible nutrients also they are increased in case of the milk production. Then metabolizable energies are also being increased, which can be depicted by this particular table. Then there is a small difference between the cattle, this is cattle, and the buffalo, because the fat percent itself is going to change in case of the buffaloes. Just you can see the fat percent may reach up to the 10 in case of the buffaloes. So the dry matter intake is also gradually it is going to increase as the fat is going to be increased. So, or else if dry matter intake is less, then fat content of the milk will also be very less. So there is one term called as low fat syndrome, wherein which the milk fat drastically reduces. Apart from that, the especially the genetic makeup of that particular animal. So as the fat percent increases, the total digestible nutrient in kgs, then metabolizable energy, both of these are going to increase in a very nutshell. Then energy required for the growth, especially in case of the cattle. If it's a calf or a heifer, then the formula need to be revalidated, just like which is given here, and especially the EVE is equal to energy value of live gain. So it is calculated mj or megajoules per kg body weight. So here in the formula we can see that W is equal to weight in case of kgs, and LWG is equal to live weight gain. So these terminologies we need to be little thorough, especially in the nutrition. Live weight gain, TDN, DCP, and many more terms are there, and we need to be perfect in that particular system. So this is first break in the term in the question describes in increasing energy content of gain, especially in case of the cattle, and increase in the size. And the second term describes the correction for increasing energy content of the energy gain associated with higher live weight gains. So the farmers who are gaining, or if the percent purity of any animal is going to be increased, at the same time we need to make the energy balance. So if we simply go on increasing the energy, then what happens is the feed cost will always increase. Hence, to conclude, especially how much quantity of the energy and protein are required, it's totally depending upon the body weight, then body score, then the social environments, stall feeding, everything it is going to come. Whereas in case of some very short or small breeds of the cattle, for example, the Malnad Gidda is a very short period of breed. Then males, females, the value predicted is increased to the 15%. For large breeds, it is going to be increased. Whereas small breeds, especially cows, it is going to be reduced. Reduced by 15%, especially in case of late pregnancy and males. So this is the energy requirement of a working cattle. We have totally forgotten the working cattle because it is taken care by the farmer that he will have two bullocks as his working capital, what we can say. Then it also require we need to calculate the energy requirement of these bulls or cattle or the buffaloes. So here also we cannot get the cattle which is weighing 600 or 550 and above. Till 500 we can get some of the animal. So the dry matter increases, gain increases as usual. Then the total digestible nutrients is also going to be increased as the body weight is going to be increased. Whereas the another thing is the metabolizable energy, ME. So there is a drastic increase in the cows. Of course, our household codes are in this range, 16 to 18%. Whereas we need to calculate this thing and feed the cattle very optimally. So a cattle will have a heavy workload of 8 hours per day. Then, depending upon the body weight of the cattle, so it starts from the 300 kg to 700 kg. A big range is there. An increment of 50 kg is, of course, it is given. Then, accordingly, the energy requirement is also going to be increased. The dry matter, the total digestible nutrients, then metabolizable energy. All these are going to be increased in such animals. So this is about the cattle, and also we need to calculate the same thing for the sheep. Sheep are also the ruminants, and for sheep it's a very small or tiny animal. So a newborn lamb of 1 to 3 days requiring 117 kilocalories of the metabolizable energy into the per kg, 0.75% of the body weight. So the maintenance requirement of growing sheep is the 37 grams of a balanced diet, whereas the curl in 1972 suggested metabolizable energy equal to 92 calories per kg is also another thing. So the sheep nutrient, as they are very tiny animals, as we know, the production of the milk is also very very less. Hence, in view of this thing, it is going to be reduced. So the different formulas we need to work out how efficiently we can calculate this thing and extrapolate. Then the sheep So the sheep will vary from 10 kgs to 70 kgs, as you very well aware. Then the total digestible nutrient values is also in the exponential increase with the metabolizable energy. So the metabolizable energy is also going to be increased. So growth, once again, this is newborn lambs require more and more. Then the growth requirement of the sheep is, of course, the sheep when they are in the range of 17 to 15 kg, it is 0.91, a standard thing. Whereas the growth requirement of sheep is going to be 15 to 30 kg weighing. Then it is going to increase 1.2 gram of total digestible nutrients per gram per body weight gain we have to gain. Suppose the normal body weight is about 30 kg, then the next week the animal has grown to the extent of 4 kgs, then we need to calculate the it accordingly. So an average daily gain of 150 gram was achieved in the lambs when fed diet containing 8.22 megajoules of the feed, especially the good quality feed always increases the weight of any animal. So the crossbred lambs during the post-weaning phase, they also require the diet, especially for the metabolizable diet. Then AFRC predicts that for sheep, it is also the different castrations. Calculations are done depending upon the castrated, non-castrated, then females, males, etc. Once again, males, castrated males, and castrated sheep, whereas in case of the females it is totally a different issue. Pregnancy and lactation also requires the energy requirement. So during the fast growing fetus, it says that the pregnant sheep 71 to 81 kilocalories of metabolizable energy per kg body weight they require. The energy requirement of lactation depends upon how much amount of the milk or what is the composition of a milk of the sheep. So once again, the a lengthy list of the metabolizable energy is done. Here starting from 15 to 70. Once again, this TDN and ME requirement is going to increase. So the both energy requirement for the maintenance and also the lactation, it is little bit increased in every 10 or 5 kg body weight. Here 15, 20, 25 kg body weight. And goods also it's almost same. The same formula holds good. The maintenance etc. are a little bit different from that of the sheep and cattle. So growth, the goats do require 7.55 kilocalories per gram gain of the body weight. Then the energy requirement is also reported by different scientists, how it is there. And in case of the animals, if they are having lactation, then additional energy containing diets and also the proteins, etc., need to be supplied to all the animals. So no, you can study all these things which may be presenting most of the nutritional textbooks, they always mention the maintenance ration for the non-producing animals, then the producing animals, then the energy requirement grams per gained weight is also another formula has to be used. Whereas the pregnancy, then maintenance ration is, of course, it is less 191 kilocalories is required. Then that's about the today's class, how we have calculated how much quantity of the energy is required for a cattle which is having the milk yield and also the maintenance, and also we have calculated the feed requirement which is for the dairy cattle and also the beef cattle, and sometimes the sheep, and also in case of the course. So we are in the end of the today's session. Of course, the exams are not yet decided, but start reading very well and study very well. Don't take it very easily because lot of competition is there. Hence, you need to take utmost care. mm, Solve almost all the questions what I have given every day or once in 2 days, etc. The question papers are given. Please solve them, and also go on checking your email every day, and also the group which is created for this particular purpose is concerned. And have a good day and good night and bye. See you.